Every time a new hero is introduced in Dota, it feels like Christmas. New elements of gameplay, new strategies to think of, and new opportunities to pub stomp with imbalanced characters. However, every once in a while, a hero can be reworked, and in the case of a chosen few, removed entirely from the game, never to see the light of day again. Put on your nostalgia goggles, here are some of Dota's forgotten heroes. Starting off is Conjurer, a ranged intelligence hero on the Sentinel side who uses the Archmage model, which some of you may recognize as Keeper of the Light's original model. The Conjurer was included in the first versions of Dota All-Stars by Guinsoo, although he was taken from the roster of Dota Darkness Falls, which was a mod of the original Defense of the Ancients map. His earliest description calls him a ranged hero, proficient with conjuring magics, and it was updated in 5.6 to say, ranged hero, proficient at destroying structures and creating large armies. In both Darkness Falls and All-Stars, the Conjurer had the same set of abilities, a couple of which were taken from the Archmage hero in Warcraft. This includes Blizzard, a channeling spell that calls down waves of ice shards, damaging enemies that it hits. This spell didn't do too much damage, especially in the early days of Dota, and it left the Conjurer vulnerable, making this the least desirable ability out of his skill set. As you can probably tell though, this isn't the type of spell that makes someone called the Conjurer fun to play. If you want more entertainment with your gameplay, you'll probably want to level up Summon Golem first. Depending on your level, this will bring out an Earth Golem, Sapphire Golem, Ruby Golem, or Mithril Golem. In general, these are really tanky melee units who can dish out a ton of damage. They actually deal chaos damage, which means they deal full damage to most units rather than being reduced. All golems have hardened skin as a passive ability. This reduces all damage by 12, making them even tankier against creeps. Starting at level 3, the golems also gain Hurl Boulder as a skill, which deals a small amount of damage and stuns a unit for 2 seconds. You could potentially chain stun your opponents with the golems, while the rest of your summons whomp them into oblivion. Next up is Summon Water Elemental, which brings out a basic ranged attacker. Compared to the golems, the water elementals are weaker and less durable, but being ranged means they have an inherent advantage over melee units, and they can take down towers from afar. Finally, his ultimate is Phoenix, which was taken from the Blood Mage hero in Warcraft. Initially, this summoned a ranged Phoenix that had a splash attack and immolation, which is pretty similar to Warlock's golems nowadays. As you leveled up the spell, you could gain up to 3 Phoenixes, but in later versions, each level summoned 3 Phoenixes, and leveling up the spell would increase their stats. He later gained an Aghanim Scepter upgrade that would further increase the Phoenix's stats, as well as reduce the cooldown of the spell. In 4.1, Blizzard was replaced by Conjure Image. This would create an illusion out of an allied unit of your choice. The illusion takes double damage from attacks, and deals 70% of the unit's attack damage. This skill was on a 10-second cooldown, so while you're summoning units, you could cause even more havoc by creating illusions of those units. Within a matter of minutes, you could run down a lane with a gang of elementals, golems, phoenixes, and illusions, and destroy everything in your path. The Conjurer lasted until 5.61, and in 5.62, the loading screen mentions that he was replaced by Syllabear. The Conjurer is a tower-destroying monster, and he easily stands beside Lycan, Beastmaster, and Shen in that regard. It would be interesting to see how he fares nowadays while picking up a Necronomicon and Helm of the Dominator. He could easily be Dota's Walking Nightmare, or an Earthshaker's Wet Dream. Next up, we have Shaku the Rider, a Scourge agility hero who uses the Raider model. Gotta say, I much prefer the Fate version of Rider, but hey, to each his own. He was introduced in 5.65 and was described as a swift, agile melee hero, adept at chasing down and killing heroes. It looks like all of his basic skills were used for other heroes down the line. For instance, Run Down is a single target ability, and you can target any enemy unit on the map. Shaku will then accelerate towards them until he reaches maximum movement speed, at which point he's just a runaway train. Each level of this skill increases the acceleration, while also lowering the cooldown. If an enemy happens to go into the Fog of War, you'll still have vision over them until you cancel the spell or reach the target. This sounds very familiar to Spirit Breaker's Charge of Darkness, minus the stun or any other effects. True to his name, the Rider does stampede to his target and provides backup no matter where he is on the map. Next is Blood Rage, which was later given to Bloodseeker. This increased the target's attack damage by a percentage and silenced that unit for 15 seconds, and they also lose a small amount of HP per second. This is pretty straightforward in that it's used to deal more damage, securing those last hits in the laning phase, or kills while ganking. For the truly innovative, you can use this against an enemy spellcaster and silence them for a whole 15 seconds, effectively deleting them from the fight. Shaku also has a passive skill in Backstab, which functions similarly to Rikimaru. This deals bonus damage based on a multiplier of his agility if attacking a unit from the back. Considering his gank potential, enemies are likely to try and run away from the Rider, allowing you to get those backstab procs off successfully. Finally, his ultimate is Drag, which ensnares a unit, letting Shaku carry them over the duration, and letting them go once it's over. Despite what the skill and description say, the target isn't actually dragged like Batrider's ultimate. Instead, they just kind of disappear in a net for a while. A better name for this would be like abduct or kidnap. As far as the skill set goes, Shaku is pretty basic as a physical attacker-ganker hybrid. What actually makes him interesting is that you can use a teleport scroll while his ultimate is active. This means that at level 6, Shaku can start running towards whoever he wants, capture them in his ultimate, and teleport to his fountain for guaranteed kills every time. His ultimate starts off on a 60-second cooldown, and can go as low as 45 seconds. The duration can also last for up to 9 seconds. Even if you don't use this for the fountain cheese strategy, you can still pick up an enemy and deliver them to your allies, kind of like an Uber that drops you off at Fight Club. If paired up with a slowing hero like Venomancer or Crystal Maiden, the rider can make quick work of his targets. Shaku's last appearance was in 5.73, and in 5.74, he was replaced by Tidehunter, once again referred to in the loading screen. It's said that he would return once he's fixed, but looks like that never happened, did it? Here we have Balinar the Void Demon, a melee strength hero from the Scourge. If you'll notice, he shares the same name and model as Night Stalker, so you can look at Void Demon as a sort of precursor to that character. Introduced in 2.6, his description calls him a speed hero, so he's either doing drugs or just really likes racing down the Miyogi circuit. His first skill is Time Void, which looks like a harmless nuke at a glance, but it actually stuns a target for 5 seconds. Call it a typo, an oversight, or a very loose interpretation of what slowing means, but Time Void stuns a target for a whole 5 seconds for pretty much nothing. In a later update, this was changed to a movement speed and attack speed slow, which, although not as strong, is still annoying to deal with. His next skill is Degen Aura, a passive aura which slows the movement speed and attack speed of all enemy units within a huge range. It's similar to Omni Knight's skill, except the range is a lot bigger and can cover the entire screen. Although it's certainly not the end of the world, knowing that you'll never be able to escape the cold clutches of Void Demon's presence is a huge burden to bear. Following this is Quake, a basic ability that, for some reason, occupies the 4th ability slot where the ultimate usually is. This is a channeling spell that lasts a whopping 25 seconds, dealing damage to buildings over the duration. It also seems like units walking over the affected area have a slow apply to them, but honestly, it's a little bit difficult to tell. This spell could be used to quickly push down the towers, letting Void Demon roam around to pick off his victims around the map. His ultimate is a passive ability called Mass Haste. While Degen Aura slows enemies around him, Mass Haste speeds up the movement speed and attack speed of all allies within his vicinity, and it looks like it has the same range as Degen Aura. This isn't just a mild buff either. At max level, Void Demon and all allies gain an extra 100% movement speed, so imagine if everyone picked up a haste rune. That's what it feels like to go against this guy. In addition to his stun, anyone caught by Void Demon is sure to get chopped down by his friends, but that's assuming pubs can pull off a gank, and I'm sure they'd be happier using that attack speed buff to farm creeps. Around 5.1, Void Demon was put to rest, and was reworked into the first version of Night Stalker. The overall idea of Void Demon's gameplay was kept intact, except he's severely limited during the day. Last on our list is a hero by the name of Hook the Assassin Lord. He is a Sentinel agility hero, described as a ranged hero, adept at attacking rapidly with his spears. Hook is unique for the fact that he had such a short lifespan. Some sources said he was introduced in 5.72 and removed in 5.74, but I only ever found him in 5.73. He uses the model of a neutral assassin creep from Warcraft 3, and his voice for some reason is that of a forest troll. Also notable is his terrible starting damage, with the range between 27 and 50. Trust me when I say that this made last hitting damn near impossible, until you picked up a few proper items. His first skill is Ensnare, which is identical to Naga Siren's spell. It keeps an enemy trapped for up to 5 seconds at its maximum level. It doesn't do much else, but in a ganking situation, this is a very powerful tool. Next is Poison Spears. Okay, I get what Gwynsu is trying to do here, but come on. Anywho, this is a toggleable attack modifier that lets Assassin Lord's auto attack slow and deal damage per second. Unfortunately, this effect only lasts 2 seconds, so you should be constantly hitting your target with the spell toggled on. Between this and Ensnare, an enemy should have a difficult time escaping from a gank. He also has a passive evasion skill that gives his opponents a 35% chance to miss him at max level. Nothing too special about this, other than the fact that it gives him some survivability in case he gets jumped on. Hook's ultimate is Track, which was identical to Bounty Hunter's ultimate at the time. This tracked a unit for 90 seconds, and each level of the spell reduces the cooldown, while it increases the cast range, extra bounty, and armor reduction on targets. It's kind of weird that Bounty Hunter's signature skill was given to Assassin Lord, but maybe this was done to provide a different take on the Bounty Hunter playstyle. This ability gave Hook a little bit more power when taking down enemies, since his overall DPS was pretty low. Not only that, but this skill does make his kit effective at picking off a single target no matter where they are. Given a few tweaks to his stats, he may have made it past the initial stage of development and even crossed over into Dota 2. Regrettably, with his poor stats and fairly low damage output, Gondar outclasses Hook in every way. No matter how hard he tried, the Assassin Lord never did quite hook us. How ironic. Those were some of the short-lived heroes of Dota that may have slipped through the history books. Looking back, it's easy to say that they were broken, goofy, or downright not fun. But with a little bit of tweaking, do you think they can fit in this era of the game? What would you personally change about their abilities, appearance, or lore to make them mesh better with everything going on? Let me know! In the meantime, follow me on Twitter, support the channel through Patreon, and click on all the doodads. I'm Dennis the Tall, and those were some of the forgotten heroes of Dota.